Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is James Mann. I'm a forager, naturalist, chef, among many other things. I own Spice Bush Woodcraft and Foraging here in Columbus, Ohio. And today I wanted to take you guys on a tour of our 1-acre homestead that we have here in the south end of Columbus. We moved here about 3 years ago and just kind of exploded on the landscape. We have a huge garden, an underground greenhouse, chickens, ducks, and a huge floodplain that we are currently trying to re-nativize and rewild. My girlfriend Sarah and our 2 dogs also make up a big part of this homestead. So follow me as we explore together. I try to do this on Instagram, but it's just impossible to talk about all the things I want to talk about in a short period of time. So we're really going to get into it. We're going to dive deep. So let's go. Before we get started today, I just want to show a short little montage of some pictures from when we first saw the house and moved in, and like kind of a little bit of a montage of the progression through the last couple years, just to get you up to speed, because right now, you know, it doesn't look like much because we're still in early spring, but we produce a lot of food in this garden. So check out this short little montage from when we moved in to now. All right, let's get into it. We just put in this privacy fence, and it makes our lives really nice and easy to keep our backyard contained. So this is our 1-acre homestead. We named our homestead Cottonwood Hollow because we have several old large cottonwood trees that tower over the landscape here, and sometimes I call this place the aviary because since we moved in and removed a bunch of invasive species, we have actually seen a ton of different birds come through our property, including but not limited to a blue heron that flew through our creek, kingfishers, cardinals, robins. We have a red-shouldered hawk nesting in a cottonwood tree just behind me here. See if I can point to it right up there, and we can see it from our back window here. On top of all the other things I love to garden, and I love to grow plants and food, and so we do a lot of that here on the homestead throughout the year. And I just want to take a second to talk about our gardening style and kind of, you know, a little bit of my thoughts on how we like to garden. You know, I have a few really good mentors in the gardening space. I used to work for a small mushroom farm called Swainway Urban Farm. So shout out to Joseph. He was my boss for over 4 years, where we had not only mushrooms and microgreens, but we had a very small quarter, maybe 1/8 of an acre intensive market garden where we grew ginger and turmeric and garlic and all kinds of awesome stuff in a very small space. I'm also a huge fan of Charles Dowding in the UK. He uses no-dig gardening principles, which means that instead of digging and working the ground, we are going to build on top of the ground in order to add organic matter and to not disturb the soil structure underneath. And this eliminates weeds, or it doesn't eliminate them, but it makes weeds a lot easier to deal with, because what a lot of people don't understand is that weeds are a part of life. You're never going to get rid of them. Most weed seeds spread by the wind, and so no matter if you use landscaping cloth or whatever, those weeds are going to come back. And by using these principles, we make it easy on ourselves to be able to keep the ground covered and keep weeds at a minimum. It's probably hard to tell, but I designed this garden in the shape of an S for my girlfriend Sarah. And as we walk in here, we're going to see the signs that she made for the garden. And the first bed we come here to is our garlic patch, which we planted last October, and they're all looking really nice. I got a few different varieties of garlic, some of which I saved, and some of which I bought in from last year to kind of get us a little bit of a diversity to start saving seed from. To my right, I have a huge strawberry bed. The first year we moved in, I planted 100 strawberry plants, and I've let them spread. So originally we started in that row right there, and they kind of spread over to here, and I've kind of let them be for now, because every year I will uproot some and I will plant them in different places so that we have many different strawberry patches. So over by the greenhouse, which we'll talk about here in a minute, I have strawberries planted all the way around. This garden really focuses on staple crops, you know, and what I would consider a staple crop would be something like garlic and onions, carrots, potatoes, things we eat a lot of. I even joke and call it our medieval garden, because we grow a lot of stuff that stores very well, and also we can eat on for a long time. Now these are what I would call our market style beds. We use compost and wood chips. So when we first moved in, we covered this whole area, which was just a simple backyard and very rocky, hard dirt. So we covered the whole area in cardboard, which is a major no-dig principle. And then we also covered it in myceliated sawdust, because I used to work on a mushroom farm, and the byproduct of working on a mushroom farm is the spent blocks that you grow mushrooms on, which are made out of sawdust. And so the soil quality here is really nice. Fungal dominated soil is, in my opinion, some of the best soil you can have for your garden. So our soil is very active and breaks things down very easily, and also holds moisture very well. We don't really have to water this garden that much because of all the organic matter we've added. And we have planted some things so far. Right now you can see our radishes have germinated and are growing really nice. We also have some other brassicas. I believe these were turnips and or rutabaga. Can't really remember. And here on this cattle panel trellis where we grew tomatoes last year, we're growing peas. And I love growing peas, and I usually just let them stay in the soil. Another property of no dig is that we do not dig, we just cover. So we leave all the roots in the soil in order to degrade and to feed the soil. And here I planted peas. You can see they're just now starting to come up. There's one little guy right there. Here's another little guy right there. I also planted beets here, which I don't see any sprouts yet, but soon we'll have them. And so we'll have peas on this side, peas on that side, and they'll grow up and fix nitrogen into the soil, and then we can plant a heavy feeder here, which is what we did with our tomatoes last year, and I did not need to fertilize those beds. As we keep walking here, I tried to make a path from our back door all the way to between those cottonwood trees. Why? I don't know, just a design element I liked. This is the path made of stones from the property and some things that Sarah made. Sarah made some concrete blocks, walk the narrow path. as you go down this narrow path. She also made an eyeball over here. This back area is what we call our permaculture patch, and so permaculture is a huge part of my gardening style. And so back here we have a lot of perennials, because perennials feed the soil while annuals take away from the soil. So you can see our forsythia is starting to bloom. I just pruned it back. I also planted some more strawberries right there, but we have goldenrod and elderberry. And the kind of idea behind this is that I have an elderberry hedge, a lavender hedge, and over here I just planted a American hazelnut hybrid right here. And so we'll have some hazelnuts. So for the overstory, we have fruit trees and figs. And so we have an American plum, which is just starting to open its little flowers. And we also have two peaches, because I love peaches. We both love peaches. And you can see that it's just starting to get its flowers as well. Should be budded out here soon. Here's our other peach. I'm not sure on varieties. I believe one is a Lars Anderson and the other one is something else I can't remember. But we also have comfrey, horseradish. I just added a spice bush. So you can see that I try to add natives in here as well, because I believe that having natives in your garden is very important. So we have our serviceberry here, and we have a coralberry, which is like a native honeysuckle. And then there's our fig. We also have little cute garden elements. We like to keep it fun. My Buddha over there. And this is a Carolina allspice. And I have rattlesnake master and more comfrey. We use chop and drop methods with the comfrey and make salve out of it. I've got some mountain mint right there. We're trying to force our rhubarb this year. So I've got all the rhubarb under there. I might need to use a different bucket without holes in it. I'm not sure how much light exactly will trigger it. Daylilies, so many things. And you know, with permaculture, it's all about layers. So, but my problem with permaculture is it's all based on plants that are either non-native or possibly invasive. So I'm trying to do permaculture with plants that are native to Ohio. And while we do have some that are not native, we try to keep it as native as possible. And this arch I just built, this moon gate, is for our wisteria. So back here are some beds I just added in. So I've got 3 beds here, and I'm going to expand this more when I get more compost. I also added a bed here, a bed there. We added 2 crescent moon shaped beds, and this will be a grape arbor. And this is a moon gate that I just built. And we had a bunch of scrap lumber from another project, and so I just made it into a circle basically. It's really a 12-sided structure, but it'll grow our Concord grapes. And then this back area right here is a big giant bed, and we have blackberries we just added back here. And you can see we have some green-eyed Susan, also known as Sochan, which is edible. So I try to encourage native edibles to come up. That way we can enjoy a mixture of grown and foraged right in our backyard. Here's our blackberries. Just got those planted. And Sarah is also going to do a nature-based daycare here in the fall. And so back here will be kind of her classroom. So she's added a few beds for the kids, and we're still working on this space to kind of make it a little bit more better for kids. And so as we move along here, we just got this IBC tote for my Master Rain system. So if you follow me and subscribe to my channel, we're going to do a lot of cool projects this year. There's some projects I want to do with the ram pump I tried last year to, without electricity, move water from our creek uphill to supply our duck pond, and we'll get to that in a second. But I also, since we are on a north-facing slope, I want to capture all the water from the house, the greenhouse, and move it all the way back to this big tote. So that way we can take it, move it to the pond, water back here without any worries. So you can see I built a series of split rail fencing. I'm a woodworker as well, so I love doing this. I just added some black raspberries and there's milkweed here. And then we come to my pride and joy, which is the underground greenhouse. This is a subterranean greenhouse, and I'm gonna have to make an entire video just about this greenhouse because there's so much to talk about. But essentially we dug a 4-foot deep pit, and then we built a greenhouse over top of it so that we could capture the sun's energy with passive solar that gets absorbed into the ground, and also it operates on geothermal principles as well. So you can see the strawberries I've added in the front. This is a shovel that Sarah mosaicked. I bought this shovel when we started digging because we hand dug this pit, and we broke it on the very last post hole for the greenhouse. So we memorialized it. It says the pit on there. Here's the stump that I dug out of the pit. It doesn't look like much now, but I used an axe and fire to basically burn it and chop it until I could roll it out of the pit. The pit was actually, and this is our garage, but the pit was actually an old, half of it, this half, was an old settling tank, and it was lined with bricks, so all those bricks got used in the garden. So let's take a look down in here real quick and see what we got going on. So I had plants in this greenhouse all winter long. Let me turn this fan off. Turn the camera around on me. So we had plants in this greenhouse all winter long, especially the citrus plants. So we are in Ohio, zone 6A, and I had a lemon and a lime tree in this greenhouse all winter long, and they are thriving. I also have all of our seedlings. Get a closer look at the seedlings here. And as soon as these seedlings germinated inside, I moved them out here because I believe that natural sunlight is the best thing for these seedlings. So I also have all kinds of plants here. We got willows that we're just taking cuttings from, some house plants that didn't do so well over the winter, but they're still alive. Rosemary that was from last year. This is a service berry that I'm gonna move outside soon. We have some bay leaf. This is the rain barrel where I capture all the rain from the roof. This is some cactus and olive tree that stayed out all winter long. And that's our native prickly pear cactus. Also have an aloe. This actually went to flower last year, so hopefully do that again. Got fig cuttings down there. They're just starting to wake up. And what everything is sitting on, this weird looking contraption, is actually called a rocket powered thermal mass. So it's a rocket stove, which is a funny shaped J-shaped stove. And the whole point of this is that I can run a small little fire in here, and I can heat up the thermal mass, which this is all cob that I made. I did this over the winter time. You can see how some of the piping is still sticking out. And the heat goes up through this barrel, goes around, and then up and out of the greenhouse. And all the while it's traveling through this cob, the cob is absorbing the heat. So this was essential this year because while this greenhouse does really well, even below freezing, when we get down below zero, it's a little bit troublesome. So this is my safety in case we get a extended period where we're in sub-freezing temperatures. I also have American ginseng seedlings up here. And yeah, so this is the subterranean greenhouse. I'll do a whole video on this because it takes a lot to explain the methodologies and the reasoning and all that kind of stuff. So we move out of the greenhouse. You can see here's the back. And the front gutter catches all the rain and puts it in the rain barrel. And so we're gonna go up here and talk about my native understory nursery, because 3/4 of an acre of our property is actually a floodplain that we cannot build on. So we're gonna re-nativize it, rewild it. And this is my nursery. So Sarah made that sign as well. And so in here I have cutleaf toothwort, some toadstool trillium, golden seal, ginseng, bluebells, ramps. And it doesn't look like much right now, but this is a place where I can kind of incubate all these plants in order to move them out there on the landscape once I'm done with my restoration work. Also just completed this railing to make it a little bit more safe. When we moved in, there was no railing there. Got more black raspberries. daylilies and daffodils. This is a hugel mound we're still working on, not done yet, but the hugel mound is going to kind of come around this way, and it's going to buffer and absorb a lot of the water that's coming down that slope right there, because when it rains, all the water from the road runs down here. So this is going to help us retain some of that water. Here's a nice witch hazel that just went to flower. And when we moved in, this property had almost no direct sun because there was a huge silver maple right here. And so we got that cut down, and I used all of the wood for various projects, which we'll go over that in a second. But I just carved a throne out of it with my chainsaw, and I still have some work to do on it to make it look nice, but it looks pretty good. I'm going to add a bird bath on the back of it. And we actually had some morels grow back here as well, although they only did the first year and I've never seen them since, so maybe it was just a tease. But here we go. We are at the Longhouse Viking chicken coop, and you can see the ducks are trying to take it over, but they have their own coop. So I built this when we first moved in. We really wanted chickens when we moved in, so I built this coop, and I built it out of hackberry trees I cut down from the property, and we built it in the style of a Viking longhouse. We even put the cedar shakes on the outside, and I'll open it up here. And so we have 6 chickens that live in here, and their nesting box is back there. We can take a look. There's probably some eggs in there, and we get a lot of eggs, so it's a really good resource. Although I wouldn't say we're saving money. You can see there's a couple eggs in there. Thank you very much. I wouldn't say we're saving money on these eggs, but it is nice to have them. And chickens are composting machines, so they actually provide us with a couple different resources. Here's our elderberries just starting to wake up. These are actually, this is their 3rd season, and these things are massive. I had to cut them back. So there's our apple tree right there. And here's our ducks. They're nice to have around. We're probably gonna harvest a couple of them this fall. And we come back here, there's one of the chickens, Brahma, more like drama. But here's our cob bench, and Sarah made this last year, and it's in the shape of a hawk, and so it kind of splits these 2 cottonwood trees. But it's just a bench that she made out of cob, and it's really beautiful, and it adds a nice little touch to the property. So as we move back here, I'll show you guys the duck coop in the pond. That's going to be another project for this year. Last year we got ducks, and there's a couple of chickens right there. And I built this duck coop in the shape of like a shotgun house like at New Orleans, so I call it the Duck Chateau or the Duck Chalet. And this is like the rest of the run basically right here. And here's the pond. So I dug this pond last year, and I wanted to not use a pond liner, so I used the ducks to glay the pond. It's called glaying, and ducks will actually make ponds just from their activity. Now, there were a lot of pros with this, but a lot of cons as well. The worst part about ducks is that they are monsters, and they destroy any plant I try to introduce in here. So long story short, it ended up being kind of a mud hole. So I'm digging it back out. I let it dry out, digging it back out, and we're going to line it with powdered clay, and we're going to see if we can't get some plants established by making a fence to kind of section off some of the pond to establish plants. So I learned a lot last year. That's what these projects are all about. So I just made this cedar gate. I still got to finish it, but I kind of got the outline made. This is cedar from my grandpa's property in southern Ohio, and so I split all the wood and did kind of a hole and peg type design. I need to work on it a little bit, but this is going to be an area for Sarah's back to nature daycare, and she just made this arch, which I think is very beautiful. And so this is the floodplain area. So we do have a lot of mature trees, but for the most part this area was a floodplain. And when we moved in, this whole area was all honeysuckle, and this area was all honeysuckle. I removed it all. I even removed it into the woods. This is a mature riparian forest, and it's overtaken with honeysuckle. And so the 100 yards off of our property, I removed all the honeysuckle and opened it back up again. And it's going to be hard to see right now, but this is a guild of trees that I planted 3 years ago. These are tulip poplars, so these are going to be the overstory tree. And I've got 5 of them planted in this guild. And we encourage all of the native vegetation to come up. So we have pokeweed and green-eyed Susan and what else? Jewelweed. Yellow jewelweed is a big one. So here is another spice bush. And this is another tulip poplar, another spice bush. I also have elderberry back here. So again, trying to get those layers going in our guild, and hopefully those will grow up to be really nice strong trees. And so this was an area that Sarah was using last year that we're going to change to something else. And that's the one thing with this property, we're always changing, we're always evolving. You know, we like something one year, we don't like it the next year, so we move it and make it something new, and that's the best part about it. So here's a blackberry I planted last year. It's doing really well. And as we move back here, you can see I built this split rail fence because this is our creek side rewilding area. When we first moved in, this whole creek, which is down there, is on our property, but it was all covered in hackberries and things like that. So removed all the honeysuckle and the hackberries, built this split rail fence to kind of section it off from our dogs. And now I am kind of fixing up the creek and doing a lot of work in the creek restoration wise, and we're restoring this area. So since we've got rid of that, I planted black cherries, I planted a wild plum back here, nettle is coming up naturally, and there's a big black walnut right there too. And in this little section, I've introduced some native plants. So we have wild ginger back here. We have ramps. This is their 2nd year after the transplant, and they did go to seed last year, which is nice. I also have mayapple and black cohosh back here as well, but they have not come up yet. It looks like some spring beauties maybe. So we got a lot of good stuff going on back here, and I'm super excited to keep doing this. This is great work to do. This is our creek. This creek still needs a lot of work. Did a lot of work on it last year, built some dams to slow the water down, made some natural water dams, mostly to keep people out, because we have a huge problem with people trying to drive ATVs through the creek and all that kind of stuff, and just no respect for private property. And you know, we're trying to do something here, so it's sometimes a little bit difficult to deal with. But we also own on this other side of the creek too. We have one native dogwood right there surrounded by honeysuckle. It's really hard to get to that side of the creek, but this year I'm going to make a good effort to get over there and cut some of that honeysuckle down, and we're going to replace it with native plants. So live stakes from elderberry and dogwood, and ramps I believe I'm going to start planting over there after I get rid of the invasive species. But you can see I also made a little step down so that we can get down to the creek a little bit easier. So yeah, we deal with a lot of invasive species on this property, but we find that as we get rid of them and replace it with native species, that things are starting to get better and better all the time. So I just planted some live stake dogwood there, and I have some pawpaws back here and a persimmon. So I hope these pawpaws come back. I transplanted these last year, and then we had a drought in May and they just didn't do so hot, but we'll see if they come back. I'm trying to get rid of all this orchard spindle as well by doing multiple methods. We mowed it all down, planted rye and activity, and this is a great foliar spray for your plants. And we'll go into all that stuff over the course of the year. This is kind of just an introduction. Obviously I can talk for 100 years about all this stuff, but here's my black walnut stain that I made, and here's some cedars I planted. They're looking good. I want to make a little cedar hedge here, and I got some oaks as well. I also have a chestnut on the property, and this looks like another cherry that just kind of popped up, but here's some oaks. I have a chestnut back there. It's an Asian chestnut. And then I have an American hybrid chestnut up front. So this is our property. We're making it better all the time, and we are loving it. We love being able to have this area and this space to be completely ourselves and to do the things we like to do and take care of the landscape that we inhabit and make it better. We won't be here forever. This is just kind of our experimental play area, because the real journey is going to be when we get land out in the country, which is going to happen one day. Here's my oak logs for mushroom inoculation this year. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tour. A lot more to come from the homestead this year. We are going to be preparing this whole year to live off the land for the first 6 months of 2025. So follow us along on that journey. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to cook and preserve and wild food, as well as the food we grow. And